Happy Wednesday. It's that time. I so look forward to this afternoon with you. I hope you do too. If you're here, maybe that could be fun. Oh my gosh, I just realized I didn't put my jacket on today. I am out of uniform. Well, I guess you get to see me with my bare arms. It'll be, Parker's gonna rescue me because I need my pockets. That's where I keep my stuff. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Shall we start that over again? Hi, happy Wednesday. As I get dressed on camera, I did sort of do some mad dashing this afternoon just before live because I wanted to do something that I forgot. And so then I got out of sync and I forgot to get dressed. And well, these things happen. So how's your Wednesday going? Is it crazy busy? Is it like mine? Sometimes it just goes so fast you can't even imagine. Yeah, I know. You're a tulip. Add your tulip. Make sure and introduce yourself with where you're from. This is the best way to get to know people in your area and to see what people in other parts of the world are doing. The Tulip group is an amazing group spread all over. In the studio with me, we've got Parker back. So that's why we have in focus and sound from the very beginning. We have the pro on hand. Virtually, David is with us. Hey, David. Happy birthday. Yeah, we couldn't keep that a secret. Today's David's birthday. We'll come back around to that. Then we have Caledonia on Facebook, and we have Susie on YouTube. And I'm sure Teacher Carolyn is plopping between both. And we have you. Thanks for joining me. Today is really special. Look at all the flowers. We've got Baptisia, Iris, Lizianthus, lamb's ear, some campanula, mint. Oh my gosh, it smelled fabulous. Euphorbia, peonies. Yeah, got some peonies. Salvia, sweet William, some, excuse me, French lilac. It's a little different variety. Columbine, poppies, local roses, and some love in the mist. The thing that's special about everything you're looking here, every single bloom that you see here, with the exception of one thing that I snuck out for, which I'll show you in a second, everything is grown by our graduates. So many of our graduates are flower farmers, and that was my goal today when I ran down to the Portland Oregon Growers Association, the market here in town. I knew we had many students, graduates, who were selling there, but I didn't know what they'd have, what would be in season. But I was able to fill the studio with flowers from our students. How cool is that? We'll talk about each of them and some of the challenges and the benefits. And then the reason that I was late getting onto the camera and not having my jacket is I had to dash out because you can also forage for things. These are just weeds from around the corner. So I was out there on my hands and knees gathering weeds just minutes before going live. So I guess this isn't grown by our graduates. This is harvested by moi, but everything else grown by graduates. So pretty darn exciting. We'll have so many fun things to talk about here. Yes, we'll be designing. We've got to have lots of design. And we'll go with some natural mechanics so that we're talking about how to design with local, seasonal product in a sustainable manner and options that go with that. Shout out to 3 of the farmers that I was able to purchase from today. Linda at Barefoot Farms, Jeremy at Pollinate Flowers, Lori at Petals and Pottery. The 3 of them, that's where I got most of this. If not, actually this is where I got all of it. I'm thinking, yeah, I think 100% from those. Maybe I forgot some, but anyway, it's all from local growers, all from our students, all from people I'm so proud of because they are doing what they love, growing flowers, and they also have the ability to sell the bouquets and wedding and event flowers and to help their florists that they're selling to understand how to use their product. How cool is that? Pretty fabulous. So, while I gather some flowers to get started, Parker, what's going on out there?
Got a lot of tulips checking in. On Facebook, I saw Scott, Lisa, Dana, Wayne, John, Lindsay, Denise, Kim, Nikki, Ann, Deborah, Robin, Roxy, Arthur, and Dorian. And then over on YouTube, I've seen Jen, Linda, Debbie, Christy, and Janet pop in. A little slower over on YouTube today.
Well, come on, people. You got to get on. We've got so much to do today, and it's already 5 minutes in. Oh, my goodness. We've got to get on this because we have so much to share. For the first design, I thought I would go with one of my favorites. You may have seen this before. It is a Fiesta-ware pitcher that my mother-in-law gave me years and years ago, and a couple of Fiesta-ware juice glasses that go with it. And inside, I just have fresh water pre-mixed with flower food. So that's it. There's no foam, no floral netting, no armature of any kind, no kinzon. It's just fresh water and flower food. I find that when you're working with local product, how you take care of it is vitally important. So when I got them in, I did treat them all with quick dip so that they would hydrate fully. So I brought them in, filled vases with cold water, give each one a little strip of all lower foliage, then I dipped it in the quick dip, and then I set it in buckets that were pre-mixed with flower food, and then I let it just sit. Now, if I'd been able to, I would have loved to let it sit overnight. I didn't have that pleasure, so it has been sitting for 6 hours. So they've been hydrating well for 6 hours, so they should be ready to design. Now, some things take a little bit more care, and I want to throw this out there now and have it open for discussion. If you have thoughts, ideas, knowledge that you're willing to share, please add it in on Facebook or YouTube. Parker's going to be watching like a hawk to see if he can catch it all, because I know it's hard when you're trying to watch everything and keep the tech going and pay attention to making sure Leanne gets dressed correctly. But the first question I have is having to do with poppies. These poppies were from Pollinate, and I just had to buy them because they're exquisite. I mean, look at that bloom. I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous. Now, I've been experimenting with poppies at home, and I haven't found a way that is absolute perfection yet. If you go back to basic floral design and you look in your care and handling section, and it talks about flowers with a milky sap, and it tells you that they need to be singed or burned or boiled so that you seal that sap in. But which works best? To boil it, to singe it, to do nothing? Some people say try denatured alcohol. Don't know. So I have my flame so we can singe, and then I have some hot water so that we can burn. Not burn, boil, excuse me. So that's, you can see the water steaming, okay? Earlier, I took these, I removed some foliage, I cut them, and then I treated them with the quick dip, and then I just put them into a vase with flower food. Now, let's take one. I'm going to give it a fresh cut so that it starts from scratch, and then I'm going to singe it. That's pretty much singed. And I'm just going to set it in a vase of water. That'll hold for a moment. I'll get another vase in a second. Then I'm going to take another one. Let's take this guy. And just give it a cut and put it in the boiling water, making sure that the head stays away from the steam. We can go ahead and do that with a couple of buds as well. Okay, so now I have the boiling water. Then I'll take a couple buds and add it to this other vase so that I've got that going too. This has more foliage. I think I'll remove some because the foliage will drink up some of the water and potentially take it away from the bloom. So I don't want too much. Giving it a cut, and I'll singe that one. And then put it into the other. So now we have two that have been treated. One with the hot boiling water, one with the burning. These I'm just going to leave so that we have a neutral, something to just watch what happens. Now I didn't have a third open bloom, but I'm going to assume that those might open. We'll just kind of see. They also had some Buchlerum. This also was from Pollinate. It too has that milky white sap. So technically, if you read in your basic floral design book, I should cut it and singe it. And let it drink, or cut it and put it into boiling water.
James wants to know, are we playing with fire in heels?
No, I'm not today. Today I wore boring shoes, but I will be changing into high heels at exactly 4:01 because Mr. Kessler and I are going to start his birthday festivities. So let's do a shout out to David because it's his birthday. How many times am I going to say that? Probably a whole lot. I actually started about 2 weeks ago. We have this plan in our family that the benefit of getting older is that you get to celebrate one day for every year. So the exciting thing is, with David and I, I'm going to turn this out so I don't have a fire. With David and I, we cover like a third of the year now. Bonus to getting older. How cool is that? So he's been birthdaying already for several weeks, and he still has several weeks to go. Not to mention age, but you know what? Not everybody is so fortunate to get older, so I figure it's a luxury that we celebrate. So, back to this one. Don't forget, I want to know if you have any tips, hints, knowledge, techniques, magic voodoo for poppies and Buchlerum. You know, what do you do? I am still experimenting. I know what I teach, but I haven't really convinced myself yet. So work on it. Parker, what have you got out there?
Well, whether it's singeing or boiling, do you need to treat the areas where you removed foliage as well?
Good question. I don't know. Okay, people, another question for you. When I remove a side shoot, that milky sap starts coming out. I'll be honest, so far I have just ignored that. But should I be doing something with that? I don't know. So another question for the tulips. Excellent question, because someone out there will know. I know that we have brilliant tulips. It's just a matter of finding the one that knows that the best. Now this is Salvia, and I can't remember which farmer I got this from, so I can't tell you, but it was one of them. So this is Salvia, and I thought that this intense purple was lovely with the cobalt blue. And it's just a normal flower, so it doesn't need anything special. Again, I quick dipped it and placed it with flower food, and now I'm placing it in with flower food, but with no mechanics of any kind. So at some point I'm going to have to position it so that it has support. Then this is the lilac that I was telling you about that's a little different variety. It's a little lacier, more delicate. I find that lilac does best if you remove most of the foliage because the blooms are so fragrant and thirsty. Generally, the more fragrant a flower, the thirstier it is. So if you remove that foliage, it gives it the opportunity to bloom out better. And then I do a long cut that really opens up the vessels, and then I can feed this in because I like that sort of lavender purple with the deeper aubergine purple. Oh, don't you love that? Ooh, that's beautiful. If you're in some parts of, well, like Montana, right now, lilacs are at their peak. And one of my favorite towns in Montana is Fort Benton. And Fort Benton has lilacs everywhere. I went running one morning through the town, and it was like the lilacs were running with me because the fragrance was all encompassing. It was one of the most delightful things I have ever experienced. It was so, so grand. If you're closer over by Niagara, they actually have a lilac garden. And it should be happening about now as well. It might be a little bit late there. It might be a little bit earlier in its full bloom, but it might still have some varieties that are fabulous. So, I always thought, wouldn't it be fun to have tulip field trips where we just went from one flower festival to another to another? I mean, I'd sign up for that. No, don't get your hopes up. We don't have any planned right now. COVID is just keeping us all on our toes. But wouldn't that be the greatest? I think that would be so fun, a flower tour, and you just go from, you could start with the Daffodil Festival, then go to the Tulip Festival, then the Iris Festival, then the Lilac Festival, the Ranunculus Fields. Oh my gosh, have you seen those? Too late for that. Next spring, you'll have to go to the Ranunculus Fields down in California. They are to die for. Local product, local flowers, local beauty. And it looks good both sides. Got to put a little bit there. I see I have a hole, so let's fix that before we go further. Did anybody come up with any ideas for our little milky sap friends, the poppies and euphorbia?
Yeah, we have one vote for boiling over singeing, for aesthetic reasons and to avoid, murking up the water with this stuff. And another vote for boiling water, just so you can leave it in there, kind of make sure you have everything taken care of.
I'll be honest, I kind of lean towards the boiling myself. I just don't have proof for that, but that's some of the same reasons that I like. Plus, I'm not real big on open flame because I'm always fearful that something would catch on fire. My sleeve, it's like, oh my gosh, we don't want to cause troubles there. But yeah. Then going back and adding into some of my little smaller vessels, the same blooms so that I carry the look through. And then I thought the Nigelia, the Love in the Mist, would just be so pretty coming up and over. Now I know that Caledonia and Susie have the websites for everybody, so I asked them to go ahead and share that with you because you get to see what some of your tulip friends are doing. It's not all get a job in a flower shop. It could be working at a farm. It could be owning the farm. I didn't get out, but Chelsea is another farm here in town that does such amazing, beautiful things. And she has lavender that she grows, as well as peonies and dahlias. So much beauty. But she doesn't sell at the market, and I didn't have time to run out to Sobeys Island. But she too has so much. So as you're thinking about what you're going to do as Floral, don't forget that there's lots of different options to making a living in the floral world. Doesn't have to be what you expect it to be. And maybe just a little bit to get some depth. Sweet William. Now, as you're thinking about purchasing local, sustainable, farm direct, the care is generally the hardest thing because they do oftentimes need a little more care because they're a little more fragile. They're not grown as a commercial commodity. And so what we find fabulous about them is also what creates a little bit of a problem because they just don't hold as well as some things. So you can go to the flower library on our website And some of the varieties will be there and give you tips for taking care of it. Not all, because many of the varieties that they grow are not the things that are commercially available. And people say, oh, but you're so lucky because you're in Pacific Northwest where you have so many farms. There's farms everywhere. I mean, even up in Alaska, there are flower farmers, and you don't think of Alaska as being a flower farming community, but they're kind of a mecca for peonies, and they really do have a lot of options there. So you need to start looking, where are your flower farms? Check your local farmers markets, see what's available. You might be surprised. And if there's nothing in your area, maybe you should start growing flowers. Yeah, I'm thinking you should. So I'm going to set this aside. So this one is just neutral mechanics. Everything's just self-supporting, all local product from the farm, all pretty much fun. Maybe put a little bit of Nigelia in here too. Now Nigelia is commercially grown, and so the care and handling is a little more understood and easier. But sometimes you just got to do your own testing and see what you think will work. And so I encourage you to explore, just like I am, taking poppies home and watching them and seeing what happens. I'll set those aside. We'll get pictures of these and put them on social starting tomorrow. They'll go in the Tulip group first, the private Facebook page, and then they'll go out every place else on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I can think, what is that? Yeah. Okay. The willow is not grown by a student. The willow is local grown from Oregon Flowers out in Hillsboro. So I guess this one isn't a student. I have to say that because I'm sure they have some, but this isn't from them. They didn't have any there for sale, so I just grabbed some. And oftentimes, when we talk about mechanics and such, floral netting comes up. And they say, oh, that's better because it's better for the flowers, it's better for the earth. It's just different. I wouldn't say it's really better because how long does it take this, unless you bother to take it in to be recycled or something, or you reuse it, it's probably still going to end up in the garbage. So it is a choice, but I'll be honest, I oftentimes like to go with something more natural, like curly willow. That can give me an armature that truly is sustainable, organic, compostable, all the things that we talk about. Just kind of bringing it in here. Adding another piece in my hands. Trying not to throw it all on the floor. There we go. And I'm just kind of tying it together in my hand, holding it in place. And I'm kind of starting to lose it, so rather than lose it, I'm going to take and tie it off, and then I can go back and add some more, but I'll stop and lash it together so that I don't have it fall apart on me because I want it to stay together. I'm gonna hold it in place. And then just twisting it. So that gives me a starting point. Then I can go back and tie more in. I actually just tie that one in right now. It goes right with the others so easy. But what I'm doing is creating an armature that's natural, that's organic, that is sustainable. I mean, curly willow just keeps growing and growing and growing. The one problem you have is that its root system is very, very invasive. So you've got to be careful where you plant it. If you put some at your house, make sure it's not by water pipes or septic or anything, because it can just destroy that. And then you wouldn't be happy with that lovely plant that you put in. You want to be a little careful with that. Anything else going on out there, Parker?
I was gonna say I can do another round of shout outs.
Oh, cool. Okay.
People coming in over on Facebook. I saw Maria, Becky, Cher, Letitia, Andrea, Joe, Luminita, Solveig, Alana, and Casey. And then YouTube people started showing up. I saw Ianella, Isabel, Laura, Emily, James, Samantha, Jocelyn, Carrot, Paula, Anna, Greg, Elaine, Leslie, Tess, Julia, Pilar, Betsy, and Jean.
Hi all. Thanks for joining us. Any first timers out there? If you're a first timer, introduce yourself so that we can welcome you. We really like having you join us. And it's kind of scary the first time because it's like, oh my gosh, do all these people know each other? Nope, we're just all getting to know each other. But we're a pretty friendly bunch and pretty welcoming of new people. So if you're a first timer, join us. Now, all of the techniques I'm teaching today really are basic and advanced class. There's nothing new here. The only new today is the products, the flowers being local and seasonal from our very own graduates. I mean, I just love that. I think it's so grand. When I first bought the school, we only had a few people that were flower farmers that came to school. But over the years, flower farming has become so much more popular, and it's become an actual business that can be thriving. Now, it also is a hard business. You know, it's a lot of work. It's not just, oh, you drop some seeds in the ground and it takes care of itself. No, it's a lot of work. So now, I've just got this set in. I can force it in a little further. If I wanted to, I could take some more willow and wind it up inside. I don't really feel like that's necessary. I think just a bit like this is really all you need, and it all just pulls together. Then you can determine what blossoms do you want to use. I'm like, you know, just because I can't not use these, I'm going to use the peonies. Aren't those great? I think these were from Linda, Barefoot. I won't swear by it, but I think these were from Linda. And they're just beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. You know, peonies are one of those flowers that we all covet. They are fragrant, they have that wonderful, wonderful aroma, and their season is limited, which makes us want them more. Now, they are bringing them in from all over the world so that it extends the season. You can get them in November from New Zealand. You can get them in September from Alaska. You can get them in April from California. And right now, from Portland. So it isn't like they are not available year-round, but they do have a more finite season, and the out-of-season blooms, by the time you pay all the shipping, it's so much more expensive that it's very difficult to sell them. We all know flowers are not free, and so using them when they are in season, kind of a treat, a very big treat. And I was thinking of it that because our peony season really kind of peaks at Mother's Day, which is perfect for the Northern Hemisphere holidays. But the reality is, peony season in the Southern Hemisphere coincides more with Christmas, Valentine's Day, Thanksgiving, that window. So you would have winter peonies, but it is actually summer. Oh, it's so hard to grasp how the seasons evolve, and you have to figure out, what season am I in? Look at these beautiful roses. The difference between a local flower farmer is that they don't cut off all the buds. So when you buy a commercial rose and it's just a single rose straight up and down and no side shoots, it's because they've removed all of the buds. It's not that it didn't have them. And when you buy local from the farmer, you get the buds. Isn't that great?
How long do peonies last in a vase typically?
You know, typically you can get 5 to 6 days on a peony. It depends on the temperature and it depends on how open they are. These being as open as they are now, I might only get 4 days out of them. So they are to be treasured and loved for their life. Now, if you get them when they're a tight bud, you can actually get longer, but they're not very attractive. And so if somebody doesn't understand and you send them these peonies that are like that big around, you know, maybe they're like a donut hole. They're little tiny things. They might go, really? You charged me that for that donut hole? I don't get it. And it's not their job to get it. So then we don't send them out until they're a little more open like this, but then they're going to be shorter lives. So it's a catch-22 as to which way is better. I'm going to turn this around so you can see that it's pretty on both sides, but I got to put one more thing in here. There we go. And then I have to look at it from your side to see where I need to add, which is right there. Squeeze that little guy in there. I'm just trying to get it to be lush and fabulous from all directions. And letting it just grow. Saving my buds. I don't know what I'll do with them yet, but I can't throw them away. They're too lovely. Okay. Then, another fun product. Columbine. So lovely. Columbine is a summer bloom. It'll go for another month maybe. It's relatively long lasting and it looks so delicate and it just kind of can come up over the top of everything else and add lightness. Now the darker color then brings up that deeper of the peony so that it pulls it up in, because the ivory of the roses, you know, it doesn't really have unity going down, but this way it pulls that darker up and also kind of connects visually with the container, so it's got darker, darker, and darker coming up through the center. And they're just so graceful. Up.
Over on YouTube, Carrot recommended picking peonies when they feel like a marshmallow. They said they have 5 varieties in their yard and that rule of thumb works well for them.
You know, and it depends a lot too if you're doing it where you have to put it in a box. Because if you wait till the marshmallow stage and you put it in a box to ship it, dry pack, it can get bruised and damaged. So then it's better to do it when it's a little bit harder. But if you're going to be buying them and taking them home and using them, or cutting them and using them and delivering them, then marshmallow stage is perfect because it's going to start opening and it looks pretty. And you can actually get it to open a little faster if you need to once it hits that marshmallow stage. When it's that rock ball, you know, like a golf ball, you can't even force it. It's just a little bit tricky. So, good to know. But yes, so those of you that are growing peonies that want to know what that optimum is, it sounds like touch the head, see if it is marshmallow-ish and it's ready to pick and add to your arrangements. And I know when it hits that marshmallow stage, you can be pretty much guaranteed it's going to open too, which is also very good to know, because you don't want it if it's not going to open. If it just stays that bullet, there's no real value to that. There. So again, we'll get pictures of these. We're talking local, seasonal, all grown by Tulip Floral Design Institute graduates, which just makes my heart sing. Anything new on the burning or boiling?
Not yet. Everyone seems to be pretty satisfied with the boiling, I think, has been the consensus. But it has been 20 or so minutes since the last time you said happy birthday to David.
Oh, that's right. Hey, guys. Don't forget, it's Mr. Kessler's birthday. The birthday boy is with us, and I even am working on his birthday. Oh my gosh. I did dash home though and have lunch with him, and boy, we had a feast. It made it really hard to come back, I'll be honest. It was so delicious. He made steaks for us, steaks for lunch, steaks and mashed potatoes. Oh my gosh. He makes the best mashed potatoes in the whole entire world. So, yeah. Oh, happy dance. Happy dance. Oh my gosh. Okay, which should I do first? Okay, question for you guys. Which should I do? I don't know if I'm going to have time to get them all done. So, do you want to see the compote? Or do you want to see a hand tie? You got about 10 seconds to put it in there. Compote or hand tie? Answer that, and then I'll get started. Compote or hand tie? And the verdict is compote or hand tie. What am I doing? Okay, I'll drink coffee.
Compote is the vote.
Compote is the vote. Okay, compote it is. I prepped it ahead, and I wanted to do another mechanic that isn't floral netting, that isn't foam, that's very flower friendly. So I used clear waterproof tape and just did a grid across. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this direction and 2 this direction. The trick when you do this to make sure it works is after you do your grid, tape all the way around the sides. And that way you can make sure that the tape doesn't let go and it holds in. So again, same thing you know from flower school, but now we're gonna do it with cool flowers. Let's see, oh. Look at the lambs there, is that lovely? Oh, I love that. And that soft gray. Be beautiful with this. And it's a thirsty thing, and so being able to put it just straight down into water with flower food means it's going to hold the best and keep your flowers alive. Removing my side leaves so that they don't get into the water. Hard foliage you can put inside the water, soft foliage you cannot. So, yeah. So I'll be continuing to test my poppies. And if you guys do come up with some magic answer that you've discovered works all the time, although we all know that nothing works all the time, but if you come up with some magic answer, answer away. More local grown roses with the buds on them. Oh my gosh, they're just beautiful. And they're very fragrant, nicely fragrant. So I'm going to have to cut them apart a bit because I can't get the whole stem in as it is. So cutting it down, and I'll still use the whole stem, but there we go. And this, to me, just shouts for some of the lilac, because with its sideways movement, it works well. Again, long sweeping cut so that it will expose the wood and it will drink well.
How do you define hard foliage versus soft foliage?
Ooh, good question. Hard or soft foliage? A hard foliage and I don't have any because it's not a local grown product, but if you had aspidistra or tea leaves where it's a very hard, smooth surface, if you had salal leaves, they wouldn't hurt being in the water a little bit, although you don't really need to. Generally, it's going to be those broad, flat leaves that you can put in the water. Flax works nicely. If it's softer, it's like your ferns. It's definitely like the lamb's ear. Anything that has that little bit fluffier feel to it, that should never ever go into the water because it will just get stagnant and actually shorten the lives of your flowers. So you don't want to do that. So, we always say, don't ever put your leaves in the water, and then we turn around and we put leaves in the water. So the trick is that you just make sure you only do it with leaves that are very, very sturdy, hard things so that they don't rot underwater. Because if they aren't sturdy and hard, they just start to decay and they pollute your water, basically, is what it comes down to. So I've got the lilac, I've got the roses. Let's see, what else do I want to put in here? The colors are all so grand. This was from Lori, I believe, and it's campanula or bellflower. Very graceful, surprisingly long lasting. And sticking some of that in, and I know there's probably some student out there that says, oh, you're not supposed to do white unless you do all white, because I always say, oh, white's difficult to work with. You've got to be careful. And it's always safer to either do all white or no white. But in this particular case, the white helps to capture that ivory of the container and carry it up into the design. So even though I tell you, be careful with white, it doesn't mean never use white. It just means be very aware that it's tricky. And if you don't use it well, it can look like just spots in your arrangement and be really distracting. So you want to watch that. Okay. Now, if you are thinking of growing flowers, or if you know somebody that's thinking about growing flowers, share this video out, spread the word so that more people can see how local grown product can be incorporated into our arrangements. And that way maybe they'll find out, hey, I need to go to flower school so that I can be better at choosing what flowers to grow and how I grow them and what's going to work best for me in my floral journey, because flower farming is a really viable, wonderful way of doing it. It just is a little different because you always think of florists as just buying their product, but the reality is you can grow your product and there's no reason you shouldn't. Especially if you like to farm. Now, if you don't like farming, then do like me and go pick it up at the market or at the farmer's market. I know I went down to our farmer's market on Saturday to get treasures for feasting for the birthday boy, and there were so many flowers there. It was amazing. It was hard not to buy them because it's like, okay, Leanne, nope, you're not here for that. No, 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 you're not here for that. But they had such gorgeous callas. Oh, and then peonies. They just had so many beautiful, beautiful blooms. The callas especially impressed me because callas are hard to buy at a commercial because once they're put in the box, they get damaged and it becomes a problem. And they don't do that. They put them from the field into a bucket, into their car, to the market, and then you can take them and carefully get them home without putting them in a box. So it makes it much, much better. More of the Columbine then. Just letting them come out over the top. They're so delicate and graceful. You don't have to keep it within the form. You can let them go outside the form, creating depth within the design.
I have a question. Someone asked, aren't you supposed to leave at least some of the leaves on the roses because it helps them drink?
Very true, which is why I didn't take any leaves off when I was processing them so that they drank up. Then I took them off as I was designing because they were down too low. They were going to go into water, and if the rose leaves are in the water, they're going to be stagnant and it's not going to be good. It'll shorten the life of the flower. So it's a judgment call as you go along. But yes, general rule of thumb, especially when you're first processing them, leave leaves on them so that it helps to draw the water up the stem to the bloom. So, good point. Points for you for having flower knowledge. So now I have multiple levels here. I've got the body of the design, which I created mostly with the lilacs and the lambs there and the roses. Then I tuck in the white campanula, but I kept them low because white is a flower that comes forward, and so it becomes very aggressive, and you want to keep it down lower so that it just pulls your eye in. And then I did the darker delicate out over the top so that it gave it a bit of grace. And then this particular design is going to be perfect with some of my foraged weeds, because the grasses, and it won't show on camera, but they have a tiny, tiny tinge of burgundy to them. And so they really pick up the color of the Columbine, but it's so delicate and so light that it won't show on camera, so you're just going to have to trust me on that one. But letting that come in, creating yet another level, and letting it just go over the top. And the grass is so delicate that even the slightest little bit of airflow is going to make them wiggle around and dance and add a little bit of life to the arrangement so that it captures the attention. It makes me believe that I just need some little butterflies to flit around in here. Oops, that piece is broken. Let's get him out of there. Little butterflies that would just fly in and out. Doesn't this look like a little garden that you could have out where the butterflies would play? I was down yesterday, I think it was. Maybe it was the day before. No, I think it was yesterday, down at our waterfront. And they had all these bushes that were just filled with butterflies. Oh no, that one wasn't at the waterfront. That was when I was over by Nob Hill. And they just are not butterflies, bumblebees. I'm getting my stories messed up. So down by Nob Hill, I was out walking, just looking for flowers to see what was blooming and how beautiful it was and such. And the bees were just at play. They were so excited. And it was so fun to see because it showed a healthy community. You don't think of seeing bumblebees in the city, but we have so many beautiful plantings that the bumblebees were here, which was great. So compote, it's got a couple of bald spots I see. We need to fix that, but we'll also get it fixed before we photo for the live tomorrow so that you'll get to see it when it's done up correctly. A little bit of a bald spot right there that needs some help, and a little bit of a bald spot right here that needs some help. There we go. And that way it just pulls it all together. Maybe one over here. Here we go. And with all natural mechanics, with nothing to pollute the water, this is going to be relatively long lasting. Just water, flower food, and then the clear tape for the mechanic. So put that one aside. Boy, I did get that one done. I have time to do the last one. Oh boy, it's a flower frenzy. So while I'm pulling, one last chance for you guys to say happy birthday David and me to say happy birthday David again. This is mint. Might be from Linda, don't know. Can't remember. And then let's take a look at our flowers to see if they've done anything. And I can't really tell any difference. This is the boil. This is the burn. Can't tell any difference. So we're just going to keep watching them. I'll report in after we know. And let's see. The Baptisia. This was from Lori. And I love Baptisia. It's just so beautiful. I think it's somehow related to sweet peas. I'm not sure. But Baptisia is pretty cool. A little bit of Buchlerum. which I'm going to use as is, which means we don't know whether it's better boiled or not. But, so this will be our neutral, didn't do anything with it. And then we'll compare it when we look at the everything tomorrow after it's sat a little longer. Removing the side foliage on it, getting the mint ready, removing side foliage. You know, we've got in-person classes are on summer break right now. We don't do classes during the summer months because that's when the teachers all do their break and get their own rejuvenation and learn and practice and get new creative ideas. But we do have the online classes going during the summertime, and those don't take a break. We're enrolling right now, and I know there were several people that enrolled over Memorial Day weekend, which was kind of exciting. I have lots of welcome to flower schools to get out because several of you joined us, which is pretty great. The benefit of doing flower school in the summertime is that you can use flowers that you grow. So it saves you money. So if you've got flowers in your garden, you can use those for your student submissions. If you don't have your own garden, you could get to know your neighbor that might have a garden, you know, get to know your neighbor pretty well. Go to the farmer's market. It's the least expensive time of year to be gathering flowers. And if you start now and you get your certification done, it's conceivable you would be able to be working even into the wedding season, because that's going to go, it's going crazy busy this year, but you could be working and recouping your investment. I mean, that's really what we all want to do, make sure that as we get our studies done, we immediately can turn it into earning power, be it self-employment or working for others. And the timing's great because you get to work on your studies, get your training, do it all while flowers are abundant, and then be ready to go to work as everybody is going crazy looking for help. That's good to know that everybody is looking for help. There's not a day that I don't get a phone call from somebody. Leanne, do you have an employee around? Do you know somebody who's available to hire? So if you're thinking about a new career, Floral is happening. It would work, and you could do that. So it's just a matter of figuring out when it works in your life, because now is the perfect time with the flowers being available, the demand for employees, the demand for flower sales. I was reading a report that just came out that said floral sales so far this year are at an all-time high. It's been amazing, and I would have to say that's true. Flower prices are also at an all-time high, so that is affecting things because if the price is higher, the sales are going to be higher. But I'm finding that graduates are reporting in, they're so dang busy, they don't even know how to do it. They're like, okay, I have to start saying no because it's too much for me to do. I've got too much work. And that's kind of a good problem to have, that you have so much work that you get the privilege of deciding which work you want to do because there's more than you can possibly handle. I think that's kind of great. So I've got Lizianthus Buchlerum, mint, Baptisia. Plus, I need more of you to be flower farmers so that I can buy more cool local flowers, because I love it when I can support the local farmers. Plus, I love the flowers. It's just so grand to have the varieties that you can get local that aren't available to be shipped. Now, the grass is weeds from around the corner, so these were not from graduates. This is my weeds that I harvested just before we went live. I had walked around the block the other day and saw it, and I thought, oh, I have to remember that. I need those for live. And then I forgot until the very last minute. And Parker was in getting everything set up, and he's almost ready. And he says, okay, we're on, and 10 or something. And I said, well, I'll be right back. I promise I'll be back in time for live. And I dashed, which of course is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to stay put and be ready. But I just had to go get it. It was like, oh no, I need this. And you can see why. It really makes the whole arrangement a little more fun. Just having those grasses in there. Makes me think of being a little girl going out into the fields and gathering flowers and bringing them in to give to my mom. And the flowers were dandelions or whatever. But they were beautiful. They were flowers. And the reality is, oftentimes weeds are some of the prettiest things. And they certainly are the sturdiest because they don't get loved enough. And it's funny, depending on where you are, different things are weeds. We use Lilac in the basic floral design class, and I get students that come in from the southeast that are like, you buy Lilac? I couldn't sell Lilac if my life depended on it, because it literally is a weed alongside the road all over the place, and if you tried to sell it to somebody, they would ask you if you were crazy. Well, maybe I am crazy, but it is a flower here. Lilac is actually a very lovely flower that is expensive here, not free. And so we have to remember that just because it's a weed to one person doesn't mean it's a weed to everybody. So I've just done a spiral. Then all I need to do is clip my stems so that they're all about the same size. Let's try something different. When I get it cut to this stage, I do use a clipper rather than my knife. You know that I prefer a knife for most things, but when I'm working with something like this, I tend to use my clipper rather than a knife. And then it's ready to just drop it down into a vessel. Let's see, which one do I want to use? Maybe I'll use this one. Be the right size, yeah. I'm not even going to tie it off, because if I just drop it in and let it relax, it gives it an even more graceful look. If I had tied it, it would have stayed stiff, and I didn't want the stiffness. I wanted it to be soft. And then, since it's not tied, I can go back and add an additional bloom. I feel like I've got a hole right over here, so I can just tuck in one more of the Lizianthus. And again, I'm using white. I know, I tell you, don't use white, but you know what? It's a perfect bloom to place in there. Going back and adding the buds.
Before we go too, could you also show us those golden irises in the back? Everybody really wants to see them.
Oh, and I didn't do the iris, did I? Well, you know what? We've got time to do that. We've got a couple minutes before I go to start the birthday festivities. But these iris, I don't remember if it was Linda, Jeremy, or Lori. I'm thinking maybe Lori, but I'm not positive. Just know that it was one of our graduates. And I even picked this vessel for it because I thought that was so perfect. And it needs a little bit of something for a mechanic, because the iris by themselves are not going to stand up. So this is where maybe you would use a little bit of floral netting. And do it really quickly because we have to stop in time today. So guys, if I go long, you're the ones that owe us apology to Mr. Kessler. But you're right, I should do something with these iris because they are so pretty. But just doing a little bit of floral netting. And I have a vase inside here. See how that stands up now? And the iris have such great color. Finding the right hole to place it in. There we go. And then I could go back and add, what do I want to add with these? You You know, they're so pretty all by themselves. I sort of hate to, so the floral netting is really just to separate them so that they don't crowd, so that each bloom has beauty. And it's like each bloom gets its very own room. And they don't share so that their faces show well. And then I just have to keep shifting till I get it exactly where I want it. There we go. So each bloom looks gorgeous. And they are such amazing iris. I just thought this color was spectacular. And then rather than interfere with them, just bringing a little bit of foliage, and the mint could be good because it's got that green as the iris stems have. But I'm keeping it low because I don't want it to interfere with the blooms. And the mint makes it so fragrant as well. Make sure it's down in the vase well, because mint is very thirsty, so it does need to get in. Then lastly, another kind of grass that was out there was this one, which is more of a blue-gray. And it doesn't even need to be cut. I mean, it needs to be cut, but it doesn't need to be shortened, let's put it that way. So I'm just gonna cut it and then just drop it down in. It's running into the iris stems, there we go. Now I made room for it, move this bloom over here, and it just kind of dances over the top, giving it an explosive look. So it's just simple without taking away from their beauty, just letting it kind of cloud over, and the light green supporting it visually from the bottom to give just that little bit extra. So guys, thanks for joining me. Really appreciate it. It's fun to have the tulips here every Wednesday. We'll have more fun next week. Got lots more fun planned for several weeks. We were kind of laying out the calendar. I think you're going to be excited. But a thank you to Linda and Jeremy and Lori for growing such fabulous product so that I could use Tulip Flower Farmers to show you seasonal and local. You'll find more fun on our website, flowerschool.com. Share this video out, tag a friend, and happy birthday, David. I'm on my way home. Bye for now.